So thanks, guys, for joining me. Guys, there's only guys, no girls. This is terrible. We need to get the girls more excited. Although there's not so many in the industry, but still. So as you can see from the title slide of the webinar, this is all about how we can improve speaking fluency as an industry professional, but without one-on-one classes. So there's a better strategy, I think. But this is interactive. So you guys tell me, what is fluency to you? Because it's going to be different to everyone. You can unmute or you can write something in the chat box. I have no answers for this. You need to answer.
Fluency is, just trying to talk without trying to translate things in your mind. Thinking in your mother tongue and trying to translate it. No, I think fluency just flows itself.
Excellent. So speaking without translating. Yep. Excellent. Anyone else? Yeah.
To me personally, I think fluency is speaking without thinking, making up sentences in your mind. You just speak it out. Sometimes you have to speak and create some kind of sentences in your mind before you blurt it out. So fluency is you shouldn't be doing that.
Yes. So the speech flowing without pausing to think. Sentences. Is it the pause?
Right.
Yeah, pausing. Okay, yeah. Pausing to think. Excellent. Anything else? More ideas of what fluency is, or even what it isn't?
Maybe a very I would say a good flow of words coming out of your mouth.
A range?
Without hesitating or something like that, without a lot of pausing and thinking. You just let your words come out of your mouth smoothly, I would say. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So range of vocab big enough for flow?
Yes.
Type properly? Apologies. Were you going to say something, Siko? You don't have to. I just thought you were, I thought I cut you off. Sorry. It's completely fine to have that as the answer, because the actual translation in the dictionary is natural flow of speech. So that's what I mean when it's such a vague concept. And it means different things to different people. So there's no right or wrong with fluency. I will go through a few aspects of fluency that you may have thought of or you may not have thought of. There's actually different types of fluency. So the first one, and this is the first one that you'll get to as an English learner, and I'm going to use vocabulary as a context. It's the same with grammar, it's the same with all the aspects of language learning. But the first stage of fluency you reach is conversational fluency. And to do that, you actually only need to have about 2,000 or 3,000 words, which that's a lot of words, right? But to have fluency in just natural conversation takes about 2,000 or 3,000 words. Now, a native speaker will have a different type or different level of fluency, native level fluency, and that takes about 50,000 words. So there's a huge gap between conversational fluency and native level fluency. And I'm always aware that a lot of English learners think that native level fluency is the only kind of fluency, and it isn't. And I don't think you need to aspire to 50,000 words native fluency unless you're going to be an international negotiator or something in that level. You can get by with conversational fluency plus workplace words. And that's what I try and get everyone to focus on. Somewhere in between will be workplace fluency. And of course, that's going to be different based on the industry, but also on your job. So if you need to meet native speakers and do business presentations, you're going to need a higher level fluency than if you're just needing English for writing SOPs, for example. So everywhere in between that, everyone will be in a different place of what fluency is or where they want to end up. So now we have a better idea of fluency, and you hopefully in your head are thinking which one you would like to aim for: conversational fluency, native level fluency, or workplace fluency. This webinar hopefully will give you some ideas about speaking skills development, because that's what I'll talk about. What you're going to need to incorporate into any fluency improvement program. If your ambition is to improve fluency, what do you need? What things will help you develop your speaking skills, and what things might not? And one-on-one classes might not be what you need to develop fluency. Online courses may also not be the thing you need to develop fluency. They're both really helpful, and they both have incredibly good outcomes in different areas, but it may not be fluency. You may get fluency with a hybrid of training. So you can actually get the full support of the one-on-one, and you can get the flexibility of an online course, and it can be quite simple. So it's not overwhelming. And that's really where I think you'll get the best outcomes. And so I've built, excuse me, don't want to lose my voice right now. I've built a program, or I am building a program. I have a skeleton of a program, and each month I run it, I tweak it and improve it and make it even more rewarding in theory. That is designed to help you develop your speaking skills. And let me drink coffee, because everyone needs coffee, but I'm losing my voice right now. Okay. So who am I? You guys already know me, but we are recording this and other people won't. I'm an Aussie. If you didn't know, you will anyway from the accent. I am married to a Malaysian, and I have a 5-year-old daughter. You can see her in the corner there. I put her picture up more often than mine because she's a lot more charming. The half Malay Jamaluddin. That's what turns out with these pretty features. We currently live in Cairo, as you can see from the Sphinx in her background of her photo. So yeah, I've worked as a geologist, development chemist, process engineer, and one of the things I don't talk too much about, but is critical in why I do what I do now, is that I worked as a workplace trainer and mentor. So I've done all of those things everywhere throughout Australia and Southeast Asia, notably Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines. lived and worked in most of those locations. And this is where the workplace mentor came in. If you've listened to the podcast episodes, you will have met two of my ex-BHP graduates from this time, 1,000 years ago, or so it feels. BHP had a program of bringing out incredibly impressive graduates from a number of critical locations for the business and getting them some training in technical and business and culture so that they could go back and be the future VIPs of BHP, I suspect. Some of them have gone on to do that. And I was one of their mentors. So I had, I think about 15 graduates at one point from Colombia, Indonesia, Russia, Philippines, lots of places around the world coming to work with me. And that was where I got some of the skills and the interest in doing this professional development more than just teaching technical. It was about culture, business, and language. They all were non-native English speakers, and they all had a bit of a shock when they arrived to regional North Queensland. You can hear it in some of the podcast episodes. And so I have left mining. You won't see me in that face mask anymore. I do this now full time. It's been 2 years. Next month is 2 years. So that's pretty fast, actually. That's enough for me. Road to fluency. It is a road. It is a journey. That journey can be pleasant or not. The first thing that people usually do on the road to fluency is increase their vocabulary and their grammar. But you can see that that may not actually be the highest priority. If you are thinking native level fluency, you need 50,000 words. Yes, you need to increase your vocabulary. But you can get conversational fluency with 2,000 or 3,000 words. And most people will have 2,000 or 3,000 words at the intermediate level. So at that level, I strongly recommend people deprioritize collecting more words and rules and start learning how to use what they actually have. And this is how kids learn. Kids don't have very many words, but they talk a lot and they make mistakes. And it's through making mistakes that they go, okay, that wasn't the right word in that place. So my meaning or my understanding of meaning wasn't quite right. So once you're at the intermediate level, it's time to start including fluency. And as was one of the things that came up in the what is fluency, the first step will be to stop translating when we're speaking. So we don't have that disruption of hearing something, translating it into our language, thinking of our answer in our native language, translating back and then speaking, because that will disrupt fluency pretty fast. So that's the first next step. After that comes pronunciation. And pronunciation is not your accent. So one of the biggest things I think that is overlooked in English fluency is that a lot of the meaning of what is said is conveyed in the way a native English speaker speaks. What words are being emphasized? Does the intonation go up as though it's a question, or does it go down as though it's a statement? The rhythm. As now I am speaking to a non-native audience, my rhythm is less quick and less connected. But if I was talking back home to an Australian, I would be speaking like this. And it's different emotions being conveyed in the different sentences. And awareness and also trying to reproduce. The big difficulty is in people reproducing these patterns. But if you get the pattern wrong, you may be sending a different message than you expected to be sending. I see a lot of miscommunication in the workplace due to that. And then cultural use. So as a native speaker, I needed to spend a lot of time on this stone. I'm Australian, I'm a direct communicator. And Sirkan is also a direct communicator. I know that because we've had conversations about this before. So he and I communicate very directly. The Jamaludan are Malaysian, and Malaysians are incredibly indirect. And so I had a lot of trouble in Malaysia at not making people offended. I just thought I was being very clear, and people thought I was being quite rude. And so how we express a sentence does need to change as we move around between different cultures. And in the workplace, don't get that one wrong. I learned how challenging working is if you get that one wrong. So that's very much a part of fluency. The last step before we get to real fluency is confidence. It's just that simple. If you're confident and you make mistakes and you don't care, like me, I make mistakes all the time. It doesn't matter because you're still fluent. People understand what you're saying. I listen to my podcast episodes and I watch myself on camera and think, that sentence didn't even make sense. But people understood what I was saying and I didn't care. My confidence in the language, I'm a native speaker, is there. So it's the same in English. You're going to make mistakes. Doesn't really matter. But if you stop every time you make a mistake, you are going to disrupt fluency. And there you have it. These are the extra steps that most people don't know about, don't focus on, and try and jump over. If you've followed me on LinkedIn, you will have seen this post. And I'm not sure this is 100% correct. I would change that. Because speaking is needed to increase grammar. Speaking is needed to increase vocabulary. Speaking is a part of learning all of those steps. But people want to skip over all of those and go straight to fluency. And this is the one that most people miss. They want to stay back here. Okay. When people are looking to improve fluency, mostly they want one-on-one classes. People love one-on-one classes. They're comfortable, they know what they are, they're fun, particularly if you have a teacher or coach that you have fun with, that you like. You form a trust relationship, a bond, and you get in the one-on-one classes. They help you on the spot, they give you live feedback, and everything's great. If you don't do one-on-one classes, the second most preferred approach is group classes. You're going to get everything with a one-on-one class, but you're going to less speaking time. Other things that people like are online courses or apps, because you can do them at your own pace and your own time. And if they're well designed, you'll get some feedback as you go. And also the last one is that people get to talk with friends or colleagues, particularly native speakers. They will get exposure and modeling, but they're not going to get any professional feedback on improvement suggestions and direction. Now, I don't like one-on-one classes for fluency. One-on-one classes are excellent if you need to learn communication skills, if you need to learn IELTS, how to pass IELTS tests. But in terms of fluency, not so much, because you have to wait until someone's available to meet with you to have a class. Students mostly don't do any homework. They think it's okay, I've got my session this week, I'll get practice there. And they don't think about it until the next session. And we don't learn very well if we do it once a week. You need to have everyday practice reminders. If you're going to get, excuse me, if you're going to get really deep learning, proper use learning. And so they stall their progress. And if there's no end goal, then they can become less motivated. Some people think I'm doing a one-on-one class once a week, therefore my English will be excellent. It just doesn't work like that. Same with group classes, it's the same format. For fluency, online courses are not always helpful. I think people can see this a little bit more clearly because there's less support. There's little or no opportunities for interaction. There's often too much content that can be overwhelming and without direction. And it's also hard to know if you've improved because you're not getting any feedback. So unless you know you've finished the course, what have you achieved? It can be hard to see that improvement. And so the asynchronous program, this is where more and more I'm becoming incredibly convinced that this is the only real way to reach fluency. In a good asynchronous program, the program will have a beginning and an end. The assignments will be practical and based on what the students need. So rather than trying to achieve the native level fluency, it will be a small step around an improvement in fluency in one aspect with a beginning and an end, and that aspect will be what the student needs. And it's all about the doing. It's not about watching videos online in an online course. It's not about listening to me in a one-on-one. There's feedback available from me. So the benefit of one-on-one class that you get feedback directly, you get feedback from me in this program. In fact, I think you get more feedback from me in the speaking program than you do in a one-on-one class. The class finishes, we meet again in 1 week time or whatever the schedule for classes are. And in between, there's no feedback. In a speaking program, I'm available 24/7. I might not respond as quickly as you'd like. Time zone differences, I could be sleeping, I could be eating, whatever. So there will be up to 24 hours by the time I reply. But that's going to be a lot quicker than in a one-on-one class. And if I'm there and you're messaging me, 3 times a day and I have the availability to reply 3 times a day, that's what you get. So I am there in your pocket 24/7, much more than a one-on-one class. Now you can choose to work 5 minutes a day if you've got 5 minutes a day. You can choose to work 20 minutes a day if you've got 20 minutes a day or more. You're going to build your confidence through consistency. Some day, really busy day, 5 minutes. Next day, a bit more time, 20 minutes. You can take your time. You're in control. But it's the daily activity that brings the results. And you take ownership of your results. In a one-on-one class, in a group class, in an online course, you're waiting for someone to direct you on what to do next. With an asynchronous program, there is a task to complete. How you complete it is in your control. You can look up words, you can add words, you can listen to other podcasts to get some new ideas. You are in control. I give you a very short task and you decide to do it. Do you want to script your answer and make it perfect and then read it to me? Fine. You want to freestyle it? You want to just talk freely, see what comes out, record it 2-3 times? Fine. Whatever works for you. And because you're driving the process, you get deeper results. Okay. So why these kinds of programs work and what you can do to copy on your own. Okay. When you're talking in the real world, gosh, it's a mess. You're listening. Can you understand the accent? Is it some crazy Australian native speaker speaking so quickly? So you hear it, you're guessing at a couple of those words. Did you get it right? Okay, now what do you want to answer? Translate it into your language. Think of your answer, translate your answer back. In the meantime, there's a massive gap of time. Fluency, lost. You feel bad. Then you feel confidence starting to seep away. It all just goes belly up. It's a great idiom, belly up. In an asynchronous program, all of those extra pressures are gone. You have time to think. You have time to develop your response. You can think, what words could I use? How could I make this more complex? No one's standing there staring at you waiting for an answer. So that pressure of real-life conversation is gone. These programs are tailored for everyone based on the need. You may want to improve vocabulary. Well, that's what you tailor. You give me some exceptional words, and that's where I'm going to give you your feedback. You give me some complex grammar. That's where I'm going to give you the feedback. You can choose pronunciation. You can tell me from the start you want to focus on your pronunciation, then that's what we will focus on for the program. Really easy to tailor this for an intermediate speaker, a super advanced speaker looking to become really natural. Very, very easy to have a diverse group and everyone get a different outcome. Now, it's based on modeling and reproduction. I am modeling the answer. I am modeling the vocabulary, both in the podcast and in the program with the example answers that I share. You can reproduce. You can practice saying word for word my answers to get a feeling for the pronunciation. You can then produce your own. You can use my style of answer to start with. By the end of the 4 weeks, you're doing your own answer development. So you grow in a short period of time using modeling and reproducing to begin with. You're not alone in this. You can just focus on pronunciation if that is what you want. Connected speech, intonation, rhythm, stress. These all convey huge meanings in English. You don't want to get them wrong and you want to practice. You need to do it with feedback. You need to do it and have someone say, I didn't quite get that, or perfect, or, as a question, maybe a rising intonation would have been better, whatever. I will push you. That is encouraged, not too aggressively, to include natural languages, idioms, collocations, the way we talk. The more closely matched you are to natural speech, the more comfortable and confident you'll be, and your fluency will go right up. And I'm going to get you to start to explore cultural use, direct, indirect, and you're going to get more flexibility and confidence using all of the cultural aspects of language as well. With the breakdown in the connection, I forgot to record. That's okay. We'll just carry on from here. So the asynchronous program. It's asynchronous that's important. In the real world, when you talk, there's so much going on, especially if you're in that very first step. You are listening, you're translating, you're thinking, what was that word? I'm guessing at what it means. I hope I got it right. So what did they say? Now, what do I want to say? Now, how do I say that in English before you reply? And that's a lot. And it doesn't actually help you to be considerate, thoughtful, or risky. Is that the right word? I don't know. I'll use another word. When you have an asynchronous program, you have the opportunity to think about your answer, record it, listen to it. Yeah, didn't like that. Try again. And when you're happy with the answer, then you send it to me. And I will say, good, hopefully. And how about using this grammar structure to try and answer it? Or how about using this vocabulary? Or would this be a better word? And then you can think about it and re-record it, incorporate that into your program. And that's where you're going to get the benefit, because there's no pressure. You have the time to think and learn. It's not gone and finished and you can't even really remember what happened. So that's why I think asynchronous is the key. The other thing is that everyone gets different need. Maybe one person wants to increase vocabulary, maybe one person has a different objective, and that can be focus for the program. It's not me-led, it's person-led. It is based on modeling and reproduction. So I will give my example answer based, other people then reproduce the answer as they would give it. So there is a really good support for pronunciation, for patterning, for awareness on where the emphasis is, where the rhythm is, intonation. So that's a big benefit of asynchronous that you don't get in real life. There it is. And my focus will be always in an asynchronous program, including natural language and style. Most people can get to advanced on their own. It's not easy on your own, but you can. But it's very hard to get to natural. Using idioms, collocations, phrases that are normal. Also, the subtlety of the meaning. Some words officially have one meaning, but we don't use them that way anymore. All of those sort of natural parts of language is where I always give my feedback, to get people to feel and use language more naturally, and including culture. Now, one of the things, that photo didn't work very well, apologies. One of the things that I got in feedback actually from my last program, deep sea mining for critical minerals. One of the feedback I got was about vocabulary, and that the vocabulary was quite challenging. So I thought about that. How am I going to help with vocabulary without doing any direct vocabulary work? And I have decided to add a podcast to the program. This will be available for everyone. Joining the speaking program, not joining the speaking program, doesn't matter. For the first 3 weeks of the 4-week program, I will have a podcast, 5, 6, 7 minutes long, that talks about the topic of the week, a little bit of background information, and I will use particular vocabulary and grammar, and then I will explain it. So maybe 2 minutes introduction, and then 4 or 5 minutes of explanation. Why I chose that word, what other words I could have used, why I chose the word I did, to try and build up people's vocabulary and confidence in the vocabulary. Now, this one, you can't see the picture very well. I'm sorry. It's Game Changer or Global Disaster with a picture of nuclear stacks, because it's all about nuclear power for green energy, clean energy, not green. So it will be on YouTube to begin with. They all came up in a hurry. So I will include I will send this video out with a little bit of editing in the middle over the issue. I will send this video out as a reminder to you guys who joined live, but also the people who couldn't make it live. A couple did try and join and dropped out. So there might be some technical issues more than just with me. So anyway, you can have a look on YouTube. The first one is already available. You can go and listen and see how it feels and give me feedback, please, please, please. I want to know what is helpful and what isn't, so that I can offer the simplest, easiest, helpful improvement. Everyone. So yeah, there will be one episode each week for the 3 weeks. The 4th week of the speaking program is a debate or a discussion, and I'm not going to have a podcast episode for that week. In that week, I will probably try and do a guest interview, like you guys both know very well, having been podcast guests. So yeah, I'm going to try and improve, diversify the podcast a little bit. And the 3 weeks will have grammar, some functional languages, some phrases. So there's lots of different topics each month. All of the topics are relevant to the industry today. And even if you are not in the program, you are able to listen and hear the vocabulary, and you can use that as a challenge for yourself to follow along like you would with me. You can record an answer to yourself, think about it, listen, think of some words to include, try again. And I do encourage you, one of the good things about the asynchronous program is that you keep your recordings somewhere that you can hear how your English is changing. Maybe you don't like the way it's changing. Hopefully it's getting better. But you can copy from me. Try not to copy the accent, but copy the pronunciation, the patterning, the stress, the emphasis, the rhythm, and start to bring that in if that's something that you need to work on, or some of the vocabulary. Some of the words are intermediate level, some of them are advanced level, trying to keep that open for everyone. So, yep, it's been very slow. I'm having some technical. This was the live link to the podcast is on YouTube. Anyway, I'll put the link in the email and you can go and have a listen to it and start to get a feel for what it is that you need to focus on for improving fluency. And that's really all I had to say about fluency, but I'm hoping that you guys have questions for me. Again, you can drop it in the chat or you can say them out loud. Is there some aspect of fluency that you haven't really had answered or questions?
Yeah, Kirsten, how would you measure fluency? At the beginning, you mentioned about number of words that we know, etc. But is there any way to measure it?
I think it's your sense inside yourself with confidence. If you're confident in having a conversation over coffee with someone, then you're probably at conversational fluency. If you're confident to get up and give a business presentation, then you're probably at business level fluency.
Yeah, and but confidence I'm an introvert, not and fear. I don't like both of them.
Yeah, but you don't like talking, so obviously yes. that's a factor in the equation. But if someone said, Serkan, I want to catch up with you over coffee. I've got this great offer for you. So all of a sudden you're thinking, okay, I want to go hear this. Do you feel that you could do it in English and you'd be comfortable doing it in English? Or are you worrying, I'm not going to have the right words, I'm not going to flow properly, my pronunciation's wrong? Confidence and outcome. Does the person understand you? That to me is fluency. There's no measure on a stick. Yes, you got this many points, therefore you're fluent. Not even IELTS will do that. It's about confidence and effectiveness. Don't aim for native level fluency and then feel terrible that you're only at conversational level fluency, please. The world doesn't need more native speakers. Did I answer that or not to your liking? You're a numbers man, I know.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, is there any metric to measure it? So we can also, monitor, improve
No.
easily.
No.
Yeah.
How you feel is a really important measure. I'm the same like you. I'm very logic driven. I don't use emotion to make a judgment about something. But in this case, you're measuring an emotional outcome. That's your metric that you need to use. Do you feel better that you can be fluent at conversational level without being native level?
Yeah, for sure. But native level also sounds nice, right? But as you have mentioned, it's a bit too much probably.
And not needed. Does
Yeah.
the world need more native English speakers? I am one and we don't need more. We don't. In fact, I was reading some statistics about this a few months ago now, but out of the people who use English in the workplace, only 10% are native. So rather than worrying about trying to be a good native level speaker, be a good non-native level speaker, and you'll be in the 90%. Don't assume, please don't assume that native level speakers do it better. We're lazy, we cut corners, we can be a bit arrogant with our English. Some of the best communicators I've seen are non-native because they're paying closer attention to what they're saying and they're being more accurate, they're being more concise, they're more effective. They don't waffle like us. Any other questions? Are you inspired to reach for fluency? If not, I haven't done my job very well.
Yes, interesting. Personally, I think my fluency is very inconsistent. Right?
Sorry, you're quite quiet there, generally. Didn't have
Sometimes okay, do you hear me?
Yes,
You
I
hear
hear
me?
you. Now I can hear you. Yay. Not fluency, volume.
Okay, okay. The thing is that personally, I feel that my fluency is very inconsistent. I would say. Alright?
Inconsistent.
Sometimes I do feel that I speak fluently. Other times I feel that I have to start thinking, start creating sentences in my mind before I speak it out. So how can I be consistent in my fluency? Right, that's my question.
Yeah, I think you need to look at the instances when you're not feeling fluent. Is it around particular topics? Is it speaking with particular people? I have so many people tell me when I speak to you, I'm confident and I can do it. And then I talk to someone else and I freeze. And I'm, well, of course, I speak to non-native speakers all day, every day, who are not perfect in their English. That's going to give a level of comfort. So is it particular people? Is it particular circumstances? Is it particular, like speaking in public, which we all hate? Is it on a topic? If you understand what it is that changes your perception of fluency, you may see a missing stone. So with native speakers, it could just be confidence, or it could be cultural. If you're speaking to Aussies, you're going to be thinking, what did they just say? Was that rude? Was it not rude? Can undermine your confidence. If your confidence is gone, your flow will go instantly. Is it on topics? Particular, for example, I imagine you're pretty comfortable talking about geophysics, but maybe not so confident talking about politics. And I don't mean politics like governments. I mean politics in the business, politics of, where exploration should or could occur based on different geopolitical influences, for example. Just if you start to look at where are the challenges, and then the key is don't avoid the challenges. You don't grow in your comfort zone. You will have seen that also. These are all of my LinkedIn posts summarized in 1 hour here, but you don't grow in your comfort zone. If you're doing something and you're not feeling a bit nervous and a bit scared, like me doing a webinar, then you're not getting better. So, I just talked a lot with a very unnumerical answer. Again, Sirkam would be unhappy. But have I helped to clarify or confuse you?
No, I think I got it. I think I know what you're trying to complete and very clear on it. Right? So
Good.
you mentioned about maybe it's people, or maybe it's the topic, maybe it's a topic we can be discussing, maybe it's talking to people, or maybe it's an environment. I do agree with that because when I talk to people, there are some people. I think those who are much, I would say, are much lower in English, lower than me. So I think at that time I'm more confident than them. So I speak well.
Yeah.
Right? So if
Yeah.
I'm speaking with someone who is, I would say, are not higher than me in the English language, then I will start to falter. So I start to
With
get nervous.
natives, or is it a non-native at a higher level?
Both, even native or non-native. Definitely there are non-native who are very well versed in English. So when you talk to them, you feel that you are at a very lower level than them. So the thinking is that you're going to lose your confidence. So once, like you said, it's true. Once you lose your confidence, you lose the flow.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
So, it really depends on who I'm speaking to. Even when I'm speaking to my own daughter, sometimes I keep thinking in my mind, what should I say to her? It's just my daughter, right? So, but
Yes.
the thinking
Yes.
is
Well, you
there.
mentioned that her English is very good.
Yes. So when you keep on thinking, so I think that really affects your fluency, right? So
Yep.
the way is that you keep the flow, the words must be coming into your mind, I would say, spontaneously without thinking. Then you're fluent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Well, that's why I added I added to the asynchronous program the 4th week. The first time I ran the program, it was just 3 weeks with me in private, feedback in private. And everyone was comfortable with that. Everyone thought that was great. But I added in the 4th group event, which is highly recommended but not obligatory, but to give people a chance to talk to each other. So for 3 weeks, build your confidence, build your vocabulary around this topic, clarify your ideas before you then get into the public debate arena. And that is key. If you are looking to improve fluency, don't underestimate the value of talking to yourself. Record it, listen to it, try and be critical, kindly critical, try and improve it. Because once you're in the zone, in the real world, having a conversation with someone, there's so many things that can destabilize you, can knock you off your confidence. So maybe someone's accent, you can't quite understand them. Maybe they're talking so fast and they're native Australian speakers and you don't really have any idea what they're saying. Maybe they just have so much confidence it makes you feel less confident. But if you've got the confidence through the practice in the background in the non-real life events, your real life performance improves astronomically. So it is really important to get practice in real life speaking, but also to have that background development of skill set as well. Don't just rely on one or the other. On your own alone is never going to get you there. But you can talk with native speakers all day, every day, and not improve. You're not getting feedback, but you're also not having a chance to listen to yourself, be critical, see where you want to change, go through that learning process. You've got a phone, your phone's got a recorder. Just follow my podcast, for example, and then record your thoughts about it. Listen to it. There was a word in that podcast I want to try and use. Record it again, try and use that word. Listen to how you sound. Listen to your speech, self-feedback if need be. And then when you're comfortable around it, go and try and talk to someone in the real world with it. Fluency isn't it isn't something that you can just do by speaking in public or speaking with people all the time, in my opinion, my experience. Both of you guys, do you think fluency is important to you? Not for other people, but just, is it something that's important to you?
Yeah, for sure.
The reason I ask is because you've both been guests on my podcast and I have had very pleasant conversational experiences with both of you. So I would, at least with me, I think your fluency was quite nice, but it may not be where you want it to be, the complexity of fluency or whatever. You may have personal goals to improve in a particular aspect.
Of course, my target, my personal target is to reach, like you said, native fluency. So that is a dream to me, I don't know whether I can reach that. Basically,
you're going to have a complication. You're going to have a complication, Jamaludin, because you're hearing Manglish all the time, Malaysian English. Yeah.
Yes.
When I was in Malaysia, my Manglish was perfect. Can or not? Which is you're laughing because you understand it's a literal translation of the Malaysian words. And everywhere is like, we'll meet Thursday, can or not? And I'm starting to talk to my family, can or not? And they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? Because the cultural aspects of the language will be strong. I've had to de-learn Manglish and get back to correct English to do this. So do you need native level fluency? If you're in Malaysia, probably no. I spoke fluent Manglish because it worked for me better. It was more effective. Fluency is dynamic. It is to you what it is to you. Serkan is not going to need to speak Manglish anytime soon. So that's fine. He may, I don't know what is Zambian English. But, you know, your need will change when you move, where you grow with your job. If you need to speak in presentations, then you need to have a more formal English. If you are speaking to the guys on the floor and asking them to behave themselves and do their job, as I did for more than 10 years, you need very informal English. So your need for the language will be very different depending on what you use it for, and fluency will change. Excellent. You're quiet, so you're either thinking, have no questions, or you're just in shock. I'm not sure what one that will be out of all of them, but it was nice just having a small group. Everyone else can watch it live, everyone who registered, who joined and dropped or didn't join, and they won't get their questions answered necessarily, but I enjoyed this session.
I think it's a very good session. I'm pity that I was expecting more to join us. It was a very good session. I think, basically, I've never talked about fluency before. I've never seen anybody talking about fluency at all the time. Right? So the thing is that when that was my main goal when I was to join this webinar, because they mentioned the word fluency. So I was thinking, how do I improve my fluency? Somehow I feel that joining the webinar would improve my fluency. Although, like I mentioned earlier, I am always very inconsistent with my fluency. Sometimes I think, sometimes I feel I'm fluent. Other times I feel that I got stuck all the time. So, there is a connection. How should I do it? How should I improve my fluency? And be consistent with it. To whoever I'm speaking, though, somebody who is much higher than me in the language, or someone else. I try to avoid what you mentioned, the Manglish thing happening in Malaysia. Everybody is speaking Manglish. Yes, I understand that. So they always say like, you eat la, you go la, that la is always there.
Yep. So, absolutely.
I know. Yeah, I know that. So I'm trying to get rid of all this, I would say, the situation where you're speaking English. You're trying to improve so that you speak the right English, not Manglish. So that is what I'm trying to do.
I don't think there's anything wrong with Manglish. I do think that a lot of people think that Manglish is like a lower level English. I think it is a suitable dialect in the area. It's just a dialect. I'm here in Egypt and they don't speak proper Arabic. They don't speak formal Arabic. They speak Mesri, the local Egyptian dialect of Arabic. It doesn't make it less of a language. It doesn't make it inferior to formal Arabic. It's just different. And Manglish is the same. The very first podcast episode I ever did was with a guy called Jordan, who I really loved talking to, both in the podcast and before the podcast. He was a Malaysian kid at the time, growing up in Malaysia, but in an English-speaking household. So he's not Malayu. He's I think Indian and some of the different subgroups, not Chinese, might even be part foreigner. I don't like that word. But his family were native English speaking. And then he went to Australia to study at university. And it took him 4 years to feel comfortable speaking Australian English. Even though he considered himself a native English speaker, it was Manglish. And it wasn't regional Australian. So Australian is different to British, it's different to American. So to say I only speak Manglish, what do you want to be fluent in? Australian? Well, then you won't be fluent in British or American. There's no ultimate right English. And that's why I say 10% of the world's speakers are native. And you're part of the 90%. You guys are the majority, not us. And English is a tool. It doesn't give you a status. Oh, well, I'm better now because I'm fluent in English. Not really. So I think fluency is important because it comes down to confidence and flow. But it is what you need it to be. Like Stefan said, there's no test. You can't pass and get 100% in fluency. So it's important, it's necessary, but it's also not as big as you think it is. The reason why I had this webinar is that you would be surprised. Nearly every single person that reaches out to me says, I want to improve my fluency, I need more vocabulary. How about you use what you've got before you start worrying about adding more words? You can collect vocabulary, and if you still can't use it, it's just bricks in a pile. You need to assemble it and make a house out of it. The bricks on their own, they don't do anything for you. Use what you have and like build a small house and then put an extra room on it and put another room on it and put another room on it, rather than aim for a mansion, collect millions of bricks and then not be able to put it together. That's how I see fluency. And I do struggle and sometimes bite my tongue when everyone says to me, I need to improve my fluency. Can you teach me more words? My answer is usually, you probably don't need more words. Not today. Last week, I ran a poll on LinkedIn. I've summarized the results that will be in a post in tomorrow, maybe. And I asked everyone, what is the biggest thing you want to improve in your English? 61% said more words. It's the perception, but that's accuracy, not fluency. There's two different aspects to language. People like to work on accuracy. Okay, I think we've had enough of me, haven't we? Enough of listening to fluency. Go and talk. Talk to someone, find someone to talk to. Have a chat. Join my program. Listen to my podcast. I will have to do a little bit of video editing to join these two together and fill the gaps in where the missing bit was. And then I will send out the link with the email. And in the link, I will send the link to the podcast as well, so that you can listen to the podcast episode and get a feel for what I'm trying to do, and also how you can use it and how you can talk. Okay,